What's up everyone, MeJP2 here, and in today's video, we're taking a look at Gastly and its evolutionary line in the Halloween Cup. Now this team, it was a lot of fun to run, but if you see a dark type, you just lose, pretty much. So with the magical power of editing, we saw very few dark types in these battles, so it actually had a chance to work. Now this team, I would not recommend building it. Gastly's just not worth it at all, but it was a lot of fun to run. Anyways, that's going to be it, and let's hop into the battles. Hopping into the first battle, we lead Gastly into Qwilfish. Now, these two Pokemon have two moves that are clones of each other, but look at how much more damage Gastly is taking. The thing's just so glassy. Now, we do make it to an Ominous Wind, and we will be able to get a shield with this if they want switch advantage, but they're just going to be able to farm us down. That's okay, though, because the main point of Gastly is to try and get shields down, so that Gengar can get energy, and then it can go for a Shadow Ball or something, and it'll be devastating when it has energy advantages. So, we go for a Shadow Ball, does a lot of damage to the Azu. We go for a Shadow Punch right before they make it to a move. Now, this should KO, so we do get a shield, and then the opponent switches into Nidoqueen. I decided to catch the Poison Fang, because I knew they were going to throw it instantly. And so we catch the Poison Fang, and we also bank a move on Gengar, so it doesn't matter if the Azu comes in with a move, because Gengar will win CMP. So the opponent has to at least try for a farm down to even have a chance, but they throw a move, and now they don't even have enough energy to have a move. So we can bring in Gengar, go for a Shadow Ball. We could have gone for a Shadow Punch either, but it doesn't really matter. And we take that first game. Hopping into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Muck. This is a good matchup because Gastly double resists all the moves Muck can run, excluding the legacy move of Lick, but that's extremely unlikely to be run. We're going to shield this move, and they go for an Acid Spray. That's really bad because now they're going to be outpacing us with double resisted damage compared to our neutral damage. That's just how glassy this thing is. I let the second move go through. I'd assume it was an Acid Spray, and we get farmed down. We should have gotten a move there, but we don't. And now we're in a slightly worse position because we should be up a shield, but we're not. The opponent brings in Beedrill after we farm down their Muck. We can go for Shadow Punches. These Shadow Punches should get shields eventually. Now I can bring in Gengar. I bring in Gengar because Gengar has Shadow Ball, and that's going to hit a lot harder than the Shadow Punch or Ice Punch from Haunter. The opponent has Ivysaur in the back. So having that Shadow Ball is really helpful because it does huge damage. So we do get the farm down, and we take that game. Into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Golbat. Now, they're running Wing Attack, and they will be able to outpace us to a Shadow Ball if they want, but they go for a Poison Fang. Looks like they're just going to do that and farm down. And for double resisted damage, that Poison Fang did not look double resisted. We go for an Ominous Wind, we get the shield, obviously, and we get a boost. So, that boost probably got like 3 or 4 extra damage from the licks, so overall, not doing much. So then, they go for a Poison Fang, and I honestly don't care if they have a Shadow Ball here. It would give Gengar an opportunity to farm down. As you can see, I switch into Gengar, get it that one Shadow Claw shield advantage. And that was a very good play, because they have a Drapion, and we need energy to beat Drapion. So the opponent goes for a Crunch, no defense debuff, thankfully, and I go for a Shadow Punch bait. Gengar hits pretty hard, so I'd assume they'd shield it, but they don't. And now I have to give up another shield. Shadow Ball wouldn't have taken him out, so I would have to give up that shield anyway. But now I farm enough to try and get them closer to Shadow Punch range so that they might shield, and they do shield. They do catch the Shadow Ball on a Gardevoir, but that's fine because they're going to have to throw a Crunch anyways. And Haunter did leave with some energy, so we'll be able to go for an Ice Punch. An Ice Punch will take out the Drapion, and we will be able to take this game. Hopping into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Galvantula. Now, both of these are very glassy Pokemon, as you can see. Look at the lick damage from Gastly. It's crazy. The opponent makes it to a move. Lunge would probably still take us out. They go for a Discharge, thankfully. They then bring an Obstagoon, and this is terrible. They have a Dark type. We go for a Sludge Bomb, though, and Sludge Bomb hits very hard. The Obstagoon is quite low now, so we can bring in Haunter, and Ice Punches will be threatening now. They're going to make it to a Night Slash, and my Haunter is very high rank, but it would still probably get taken out. I get him down into Shadow Punch range, and that's perfect, because now I can go for the back-to-back and hopefully force shields from him. As you can see, that was a CMP tie there, so they're not getting extra farm. They do shield the Shadow Punch, The animation for the shield wasn't shown, though. They then are going to try and make it to a Night Slash against Gengar, but Gengar doesn't get the farm down, unfortunately, but we will be able to go for a Shadow Punch and take him out. They bring back in the Galvantula, and I throw the Shadow Punch. I did throw on alignment there, but it doesn't matter because this will take him out and the damage won't register. They have Mandibuzz in the back, though, and this game is over. Dark types just kind of destroy this team, as you can see. So, we lose that game. Anyways, though, into the next battle, we see Gastly into Golbat again. Golbat was a fairly common lead, and this time the opponent does farm the Shadow Ball. I'm not going to respect it, though, and of course they try and bait. Golbat's always bait. Now, we can go for an Ominous Wind, should hopefully get a shield. We get a shield, and I immediately switch into Haunter. They go for a move. I wasn't keeping track, and it was the Shadow Ball, so that was a good shield. Now, I should be able to overfarm a bit, and now I have the back-to-back Shadow Punches, so they should just let this go. The opponent then brings in the Alolan Ninetales. This is one of the good things. This team does do fairly well into Charmers, except for Wigglytuff, because Wigglytuff resists Ghost. But other Charmers, they do pretty poorly into my team. Now, if they have 2 shields, they're probably going to be able to charm down my whole team, unfortunately. We bring in Gastly, and on 1 HP, we get the farm down of the Ninetales. The opponent has Vikavolt in the back, and this is perfect because we're just going to be able to make it to more than enough Shadow Punches to take him out. Vikavolt, also very glassy, so we're going to be able to make it to a Shadow Punch and win CMP, actually. And this Shadow Punch will take out the Vikavolt, and we take that game. We had the 1 HP Gastly in the back as well. So we'd be able to farm him down with that anyways. Next battle, we see Gastly into Charjabug, the other very much less glacier bug and electric type. So this is worse because this team doesn't do too well into bulky Pokemon. That's why Umbreon's a pain. And we get a boost with the Ominous Wind. And the opponent actually has to throw a move here, and because we would have been able to maybe make it to another move, I'm not sure. But we would have been able to do a lot more damage with the Licks, so they do end up throwing a move. We get a nice farm down with Haunter, but we are down both shields to their 1 shield, which is unfortunate. But they bring in a Charmer, so I'm wondering if they have a second Charm user, and if they do, which Charm user it is. So we go for another Shadow Punch, and we switch into Gengar. We're going to get a nice farm down, get a nice amount of energy. In the back, the opponent doesn't even have a Charmer, they have Golbat. I farm as much as possible with the Shadow Colossus to hope that this KOs, and it does, and we take that game. This is the thing. When they don't have shields, Gengar just does so well. Next battle, we see Gastly into Gardevoir. That's an amazing lead because Gastly resists their moves while hitting for super effective. The opponent switches into Marowak, and this is interesting. Since they're running Fire Spin, they have less fast move pressure, which is nice, and they just let that move go. They then bring in Nidoqueen, and this is actually very, very good for us, because we have Ice Punch. We'll be able to force both their shields, and unless they go for an Earth Power, because they have to go for an Earth Power to KO here. Opponent goes for a Poison Fang. That doesn't take out my Haunter, because my Haunter is fairly high rank, and that makes us be able to get to another move. And then we bring in the Gastly, and did you see that? That was a CMP tie. Gastly wins CMP over a surprising amount of Pokemon. Now, we take him out, and we barely don't get the farm down. But we have a Gengar in the back, and hopping into the next battle, we see Gastly and Ariados. Now, I am kind of wary of Ariados because it does learn Shadow Sneak, and I'm at a pretty low elo, so I wouldn't even be surprised if an opponent was running Shadow Sneak. I let the move go, though, and it's just a lunge. Lunge is double resisted, but it really does not look like it. Now, this should just be a Cross Poison. That's going to do less damage, and we'll be able to make it to an Ominous Wind. Ominous Wind barely will not take them out because we were debuffed, but that just gives us more farm. Opponent brings in Galvantula, so the farm doesn't matter because we get farmed down. And they're going to be able to outpace us to a move. Now I have to shield this because Discharge would destroy Haunter, and they just go for a lunge. I'm not surprised, I'm just disappointed, but whatever. We're going to go for a Shadow Punch, and we're going to go for another Shadow Punch. So this might get a shield from them, but they just let it go. And in the back they have Toxicroak, and this game's over. And Gengar does very well in the Toxicroak as long as there's shields in play. The opponent shields the first Shadow Punch, but we'll be able to make it to another one before they can make it to back-to-back Mud Bombs. Even if they had the back-to-back, we'd win CMP there, and Haunter would not be in farm down range. So we'll be able to take this game after one more Shadow Claw, and then we do take the game. Next battle, we see Gastly into Clefable, and of course it's a Charm Clefable. I did not see a single Fairy Wind Clefable for some reason. It was odd. But anyway, go for an Ominous Wind. The opponent shields it, obviously, and they're just going to get the full Charm farm down. But that's mostly what Gastly's here for. It does a very good job of getting shields from the opponent, because now I can bring in Haunter and get a massive energy advantage, and that will let me destroy almost anything. With this much energy, Haunter beats almost all Pokemon. Now they bring in Golbat, and this is why having Ice Punch is nice. They can shield the first one, but they can't shield the second one. So after this, I might switch into Gengar and get Farm, but no, I don't. I try to right at the end there, but I don't. The opponent, I'm just assuming they blind through a Poison Fang, and they did, so we can get a farm down without them making it to a Shadow Ball. In the back, they have Toxicroak. We make it to a Shadow Ball, and this is just going to take out the Toxicroak, and we take that game. Hopping to the next battle, we see Gastly and Gardevoir again. Now, Gastly, it does very well in the Gardevoir because of the type effectiveness, and then the opponent switches into Nidoking. Now, Nidoking also doesn't do too well in a Gastly. We even get a shield, and now I can either let Gastly go or shield it. I just choose to let it go. So now Haunter has a very nice farm down ahead of it. Oh, no, I just throw the Ice Punch right away. Now, the Ice Punch is going to just take out the Nidoking. And now, the opponent's not in the best position. They have a Trevenant in the back. Shiny Trevenant, too. That thing looks crazy cool. And so we're going to go for Shadow Punch, and that gets a shield. And the opponent switches into Gardevoir. That's a huge misplay because we're going to win CMP. And although Trevenant is a wonderful shiny, we're still going to take it out, and we take that game. Hopping into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Golisopod. If they have Shadow Claw, we lose, but they're actually running Fury Cutter. That is very good for us, because now we're going to actually be able to tank fast moves instead of being completely annihilated by them. Now, the opponent does go for an Aerial Ace. I have to shield it, but I'm going to make it to the back-to-back Shadow Punches. So they shield the first one, and unless they want to go down 2 shields to a Haunter, they're going to let that one go. They just go for an Aerial Ace. Now, Haunter isn't that glassy. I think the Shadow might not even live that, though. But Haunter, regular Haunter, tanks it. Now, we go for a Shadow Punch on the CMP tie. This is perfect because they will not get any extra farm. And even if they undercharge the Body Slam fully, it'll still take out Haunter because of how glassy it is. Now, I bring in Gastly, and it would be nice if I could get the farm down, but this is just a Body Slam. We double resist it, but that does a significant amount of damage for something that's double resisted. The opponent then brings in a Fury Cutter Scissor, so I wonder if they're just trying to run Fury Cutter for some reason. But that was a CMP tie right there. Gastly won it. The opponent goes for a Night Slash after a bit of lag. Oh, it's an X Scissor, actually. And it looks like the opponent just completely left the game because they just lost to a Gastly. I can't even blame them. They bring in the Rapidash, and we farm down, and we take that game. Hopping into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Drifblim. Now, we're going to both be hitting each other for super effective, and we're going to almost take out each other at the same time. But I go for what I thought would be a CMP tie. The opponent doesn't throw, and now they just get to farm me down because I let a Hex through for 3. Now, I'm assuming they're going for a debuffing move here, but they actually full send the Shadow Ball, so now I'm just down to my Gengar. This is pretty bad because they still have a shield, but there's a small chance we could flip this. Now the opponent goes for an X Scissor. I'm going to shield this, obviously. And now I'm going to try and get as much energy as possible. And hopefully I can get the back-to-back Shadow Punches off and have enough HP to get to a Shadow Ball against whatever they bring in. Now I go for the Shadow Punch, and they have Muck in the back, and we get farmed down. That's how glassy these things are. That was double resisted, and we still got farmed down. Anyways, next battle, we lead Gastly into Golbat, and this is a pretty decent lead. We've seen it before, though. There's not really much favor for either Pokemon, but they let the move through, and then we get the boost, and they switch into Mightyena. So a lot just happened in, like, 2 seconds. Problem is, Mightyena is probably just going to be able to double shield farm down my Gengar, and Haunter is not going to be too happy to go up against it. No, I shield this. They go for a Crunch. I'm glad they didn't go for a Poison Fang, because that would just be bad. They just let the Shadow Punch go through, though, and you get the farm down. Now, the opponent brings in an Ice Fang Y also. Were they running a double Ice Fang team? I don't know. Either way, Haunter actually might be able to clean this up. They don't get a catch. That was my mistake. I was not being careful. But the Golbat leaves with a move. We get the Shadow Claw through, though. So we're going to take him out, and we're going to take this game. Hopping to the next battle, we lead Gastly into Toxapex. Now, Toxapex hits for double resisted with Poison Jab, and we're actually going to be able to outpace him for damage and outpace him to a move. Now, Ominous Wind gets a shield, surprisingly, and they're going to go for a Brine, I assume. Now, Brine will not do too much, and we still have to shield it, though, because Gastly's so glassy. But Brine wouldn't do too much anyways. Now, we go for another Ominous Wind. No boost, unfortunately. And I should outpace them to this again. Now, I'm going to hopefully be able to make it to an Ominous Wind before they throw. But they outpaced me by 1 turn. And we do get shields down, though. And this gives Gengar energy advantage. So this is actually not bad at all. Now, the opponent brings in a Kanto Muck. And I overfarm as much as possible. And so I'm going to go for a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball takes out the Muck. And they have Jellicent in the back. It's not even Hex, it's Bubble. So Gengar is just going to fully sweep this team now that shields are down. We take that game. All right, hopping into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Greninja. Now, Greninja is terrible. The thing just destroys my team. They can make it to 3 Night Slashes lightning fast, and the problem with that is Night Slash one-shots anything here. So we go for an Ominous Wind. The opponent shields it, thankfully. And now we're just going to let that Night Slash through. They didn't get a boost, which is nice, but they will outpace us to another Night Slash. Now, provided I throw on good timing, I might be able to make it to another one on CMP, but it's going to be a pain. They shield that Shadow Punch, but they are able to outpace us, unfortunately. Now, this Night Slash will take out my Haunter. And now, do I get a farm down? Oh, the opponent switches out. So they actually just let me get back into the game. They might have been able to make it to a Night Slash. I think it would rely on the new mechanic. But now, they're actually going to get farmed down by Gengar. And the opponent has Toxicroak in the back. And this is what I was talking about. Gengar can go out of control so fast. And it just sweeps that team. Hopping into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Sylveon. Now, these are the battles with Shadow Haunter. And we resist the charm. So the opponent switches into Hoopa. And oh my god, did that do a lot of damage. Now they bring back in the Sylveon. I go for a Shadow Ball. And Shadow Ball's going to be shielded, obviously. Would have been a better bet to go for the back-to-back Shadow Punches. But it's fine. We'll be able to shield this move, farm him down. Now that there's only 1 shield in play, Gengar should be able to do very well. Now the opponent does end up getting farmed down. And they bring in Scrafty. Now Scrafty, not good at all. Now, they are running counter, thankfully, because if they were running Snarl, we just lose. And I no-shield this. I expected them to bait, or I don't even know, they might not have even made it to a foul play. But I go for a Shadow Ball, and I switch into Gastly, and I make it to a Sludge Bomb. Now, Sludge Bomb will take out the Scrafty. And like I said, this team beats Dark types, but like only 20% of the time. So we do take that game. Next battle, we lead Gastly into Tyranitar. This is not good. But the thing about regular Tyranitar is that we actually do live enough Smackdowns to make it to an Ominous Wind. So I'm probably going to have to fully sacrifice Haunter and Gastly. But I should be able to get both shields from them, maybe. And so we're going to go for an Ominous Wind now. This should get the shield from the Tyranitar. And it does. Now the opponent will be able to make it to 2 moves here. But the thing about this is, it's fine because Gengar is going to be up a lot of energy. So as long as they don't have like an Umbreon or something, we should be fine. They get the defense drop, which is unfortunate. But the opponent then brings in Nidoking. And we're going to go for a Shadow Ball. I was asked in the comments why I pronounce it Nidoking, but it really just is random. I just changed it randomly. But the opponent brings in Venusaur. They're running Razor Leaf, so I'm forced to go for Shadow Ball earlier than I would have liked. But it still does take out the Venusaur, and we take that game. Hopping into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Nidoqueen. Now, Nidoqueen does get outpaced by Gastly to an Ominous Wind if they go for an Earth Power. But the Nidoqueen's just going to go for a Poison Fang. We can live a Poison Fang from Nidoqueen. The opponent then switches into Charm Meowscarada. And we're going to be able to make it to 2 Shadow Punches with Haunter. It's better that they're running Charm because it's non-stab and low energy generation. But they will make it to a Night Slash. Now I can shield this. And I will be able to make it to 1 more Shadow Punch versus the Meowscarada. And so we're going to be able to go for a Shadow Punch, get the shield. And now we're going to get him pretty low with the Shadow Claws. Now I bring in Gengar. I'd rather not bring in Gastly. And we get a farm down before they make it to a Night Slash. Now that's perfect because now Gengar's up a shield and up energy. So the thing's just set. Now the opponent brings in Skeledirge. I throw my Gastly in, go for the Ominous Wind. It does a lot of damage, but we do get farmed down. Now I throw a Shadow Punch. I don't care that it was on alignment. This is taking him out. The Incinerate won't register. The opponent brings back in the Nidoqueen. We're going to be able to outpace him to a Shadow Ball. And this Shadow Ball is going to take out the Nidoqueen, and we take that game. Hopping into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Beedrill. This is a pretty nice lead for Gastly because we double resist Poison Jab, and Gastly should barely outpace into a Drill Run. Now, I throw a move here, and I think that was CMP. And we don't get a move through, and that means that Gastly just won CMP over Beedrill. I think that's hilarious. The opponent goes for Sludge Bomb, and they're not even going to be able to get to it another move, and Gastly gets a full farm down. We're not out of danger yet, though, because they bring in Wigglytuff, and Sludge Bomb would take him out, so we actually do get a shield. But even up a shield, that's not going to stop Charm, and since we can only hit for double resisted moves now, my Haunter does not have Ice Punch because it's a Shadow one, and I did not have any TMs. So the opponent is going to throw a move, and we should have enough energy to maybe make it to a Shadow Ball and take him out. But I'm going to try and get him in a Shadow Punch range. Now, Shadow Punch, this one will still not take him out. That's just because double resistances. The opponent does have, I didn't even see what Pokemon that is. What is it? It's a Greninja. And they go for a farm down, and Gengar, since it's a pretty nice ranked Gengar, does live the move, and we take him out. Hopping into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Weezing. Now, this is pretty good for Gastly because we're going to double resist the Infestations, or the Tackles, doesn't matter. Now we can go for an Ominous Wind, and that was also a CMP tie. It's just hilarious how many CMP ties this baby Pokemon wins. The opponent goes for a Sludge Bomb, and then switches into Trevenant. Now, they're not running Shadow Claw. So we're actually going to be able to do a lot more damage because Shadow Claw's stab while Sucker Punch isn't. We're going to go down a shield, but we do take him out. And now I can make it to the back-to-back Shadow Punches. These Shadow Punches will do huge damage. So they shield the first one, but you can't shield the second one because you don't have any shields left. So we take him out, and in the back, the opponent has Toxapex. And this is one of the best examples of how much damage Shadow Haunter can output. Look at this. Shadow Ball does so much damage, and the opponent just concedes the match. They didn't even see Gengar. That's just how powerful Shadow Haunter is. Hopping into the next battle, we lead Gastly into Obstagoon. The opponent then switches into Whimsicott, and we have to farm up to a Sludge Bomb, because Sludge Bomb is the only move that doesn't hit for triple resisted onto Obstagoon, and Haunter should be able to do well against the Whimsicott. Now, Haunter wins CMP, obviously, and so we can take out the Whimsicott, and the opponent brings in Toxicroak. Now, this is nice. They're going to outpace us to a Mud Bomb, but I have to shield this because I do need to preserve HP on the Gengar. We go for a Shadow Punch. The opponent shields it, but now they're out of shields, and they don't make a catch onto the Obstagoon. So we can go for Shadow Punch and take him out. Now, my hope here is that I can make it to a Shadow Ball if the opponent overfarms, but they don't. They go for a Night Slash. Night Slash takes out my Gengar, and I have a Sludge Bomb. Now, Sludge Bomb hits very hard from Gastly. Still won't take out the bulky Obstagoon, though. And now I have to hope that I can make it to a Sludge Bomb before they make it to another Night Slash. They even get the boost, which is just disrespectful at this point, but it's not going to let them counter farm us down, so we take that game. Overall, Gastly impressed me a lot. The team that I paired it up with was not meant for climbing, and it certainly didn't climb, but it did get a lot more wins than I had thought it would. I was very happy with the performance of Gastly overall, because, while it was glassy, it was able to do a lot of damage with licks. Like, the amount of damage it did to Hoopa with, 3 licks was insane. Anyways, I was very happy with this team. Shadow Haunter also just stunned me with how much damage it could do. It also stunned me with how quickly it fainted, but that's not the point. And Gengar was just a very good Pokemon to sweep with once I got shields. So I was very happy with the team. Anyways, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.